Hey everyone, it is Chris from Retirement Hunt, and many people who are on their hunt for retirement want to be able to track and share their journey with others online. Whether you have a YouTube channel, whether you're big on Twitter, or you just want to have a blog, having a website is still something that I recommend because it gives you the most flexibility to share your journey. Whether you just want to have something written, whether you want to be able to sell a product, whether you want to be able to collect email addresses, or just have your brand online, a website really works very well. And today I'm going to share with you the process of creating your own website to share and track your journey. And we will go through all the processes, and don't worry, I'll put chapters in to some of this. So some of this doesn't apply to you, but go ahead, skip around or skip ahead on those. So let's talk about what we're going to go over in today's video. So first of all, we'll start out with the domain name. We'll talk about the platform that we're using. We'll talk about website hosting. We'll talk about installing the platform if you even need to. We'll talk about a walkthrough of that platform. And then we're going to also talk about branding, email, and email marketing. And if we need more, I think this will be plenty for one particular video. But what I'll do is you can leave some comments, some things that you thought were missing or you'd like to have more explanation. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about your domain name. And what is a domain name? Well, your domain name is your .com or .org or .net email address. So google.com is a domain name. It's owned by Google, obviously. retirementhunt.com is my domain name. It's what I use for my business. ebay.com is another one. amazon.com. There's a variety of different domain names you can choose. I tell people normally to stick with a .com. It tends to be the easiest, but if you really can't find it, you can do a .co, a .org, a .net. If you're up in Canada, .ca. If you're in the UK, .co.uk, whatever it might be. But for me, like a .com is kind of the most universal. And then the other thing you want to look at is you want to make sure your domain name is kind of easy to read and it's easy to spell. You don't want any complicated name, complicated words where it's like, is it I before E, except after C, except in these particular instances. So I like to keep it easy to read and easy to spell, right? Otherwise you don't get confused. And I like to not have any hyphens in it. And those are some of the main rules that I look at. So the question is where do you get a domain name? So first of all, I say you buy a domain name, but technically you rent a domain name. You have to renew it every year, or you can buy it for 5 years, but you don't own it in perpetuity. You have to reuse it, and that's where you use a registrar. And there's kind of two things I'm going to explain to you on how you can do this. So first of all, there are registrars out there. There's a lot of them. You've heard of some of them. There's Network Solutions. There's GoDaddy. I used Google for a while, but the one I keep going back to is one called Namecheap. Relatively inexpensive, and I'll explain another reason why I use them in a little bit. And the other one I can also recommend if it's just easier for you and you're just starting out is just buy your domain name from your website hosting company, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. So if we come over and take a look at, if we go ahead and take a look at Namecheap, here is the website, and I'll have links to all of this below for you, but you can start taking a look at different domain names. And you can what I always say is if you're not sure what it is, you can come over here to Beast Mode and you can start looking at generators if you're not sure, or you can do bulk domain searches if you want, beast mode, so you can look at just.coms or don't show premium, which are like $1,000 websites. Most of these are $14 or $15. So if we come into here and do retirementhunting.com, let's see if that's available. Let's generate. Yeah, so retirementhunting.com is for the first year $10, and retail will be $14 a year after that. So you could buy this for 5 years at a time and not even need to worry about it. So this is one place, or when you're ready to do your website hosting, you can also do it through them. So come around here and play with it. If you're not sure, You can use the generator to try and figure out different things. So if we want to do this, let's say retirement hunt, investing, and we want to keep the price below $50. So let's generate this and see what it comes up with. Came up with nothing here. But there's other ones here if you want to pay 500 or so. I don't recommend it. I think you can find something a little bit different. But that's the simplest way to find a domain. When you find it, so retirementhunting.com, you can add to the cart and go ahead and check it out. So we won't talk about this right now. This is an option right here, but for the most part, you don't need any of the rest of this stuff right now. So the platform that I'm going to recommend everyone use is one that's called WordPress, and you'll see it up here on the screen right now, wordpress.org. Not to be confused with WordPress.com. They're the same name, but we want to use the platform, right? For the cost, this is a better value and it gives you the most flexibility that you want. And WordPress is a open source, meaning there's no cost to you for using WordPress. There's some other things that you can pay for, we'll get into. But what I like about WordPress is, one, it's just very, very flexible. It's the most used website platform in the world right now. Something like 25% of all websites use WordPress. And it's from little tiny little restaurant websites all the way up to the New York Times and others use WordPress. And the reason I like it is there are lots of plugins, which is little snippets of code that will allow you to extend the functionality, and there's a lot of themes. So if you want to have it look a particular way, and I'll show you the ones that I use. And frankly, there's a lot of uses. If you just want to use it as a blogging platform, if you want to use it as a landing page, if you want to be able to sell a product, if you want to be able to increase, to build your email list, there's a lot of things that, WordPress allows you to build off of. And so there are other platforms that people recommend. A lot of people like Squarespace. I personally don't like it. Some people use Wix. I'm not a huge fan of it. I thought it was complicated to use. I like WordPress, and that's what I'm going to work with today. Okay, so let's talk about website hosting. Because you are going to be running this yourself, you need to find a server somewhere to kind of allow the website to run. Now, unlike, let's say, a big Google or an Amazon that has servers and huge server farms all over the place, you and I just need a tiny little slice on someone's server. And that's normally what is called, shared hosting. And there's several companies, there's literally hundreds of companies that will do this for you. And so if you have one that you like, go for it. I'm going to tell you the ones that I like and the reason I like them. And the first one is a company called Liquid Web. Now, I like Liquid Web for several reasons. One is they've been around for a very long time. They're one of the more reputable brands out there. And for someone who's just starting out and may need some help, their customer service is top notch. When I played around with it in the past, I could get on the phone with someone and they would walk me through doing things I wasn't sure to do, or even just do it for me. So that is one of the great things there. And they have just what's called a managed WordPress plan, and those go for, I think, like $21 a month is what it goes for. It's $21 a month starting out. And what I like about this as well is if your website grows, it can grow with you. The other thing I like about Liquid Web compared to the next one, which is also a good one, is they have less restrictions on kind of what you can do with your website. And it's not important right now, but fast websites, great customer service, a little bit more expensive. So the other one you could take a look at is WordPress Engine, WP Engine. About the same price, about $20. And if you use WP Engine, I would recommend getting your domain name through them as well, because they make it a little bit difficult to get the domain name stuff done. But another great one, a little bit more expensive, super fast sites. They give you a staging environment where you can test things before you push it out into production. Really good, another great platform. Now, some of you are going to be saying to me, you know, Chris, 22 bucks it's too expensive. It's too expensive. So I'm going to give you just a couple of other options that are less expensive. So let's start out with Namecheap, the place I told you to buy your domain name from. Now they have a easy WordPress starter, right, which is what we're going to be using. And the great thing is you don't need to install it. Like when you buy it, it starts at $34 a year or $58 a year, and they'll install WordPress and you'll be ready to go. I would recommend the Turbo because it comes with a free SSL. You get the content delivery network, which you get in this other one. You get more visitors and more storage space and a little bit more server capacity. But you know, $58 a year is what, $6 a month, $7 a month, and it reviews at $94. You might even be able to buy multi-year for this. So that is another great one to take a look at as well. Now, a lot of people will tell you to take a look at Bluehost. I'm not a huge fan of Bluehost, but they are dirt cheap. They start out, if you buy like 2 years worth, it comes down to like $2.95 a month if you buy it for 3 years. And so if you really want to get started, it's really kind of dirt cheap. You don't need the online store. You don't need the pro. And it's a really kind of good starter. Mind you, they're not going to give you a lot of resources, which is fine. You know, another one might be one I think is called Hostinger. I don't have any experience with them, but again, $2.99 a month plus 2 months free, depending on how long you go for it. Another great one. And then the question I'm going to get asked is, well, Chris, who do you use? Now, I go a little bit different route because I also manage client websites as well. And so what I have is what's called a reseller plan, and it allows me to set up individual little web hosting for each of my customers that I manage for them. And I do that through a company called Virotech. And frankly, Virotech is great. They have great technology, but there's no one you can call. Everything's done kind of by ticketing and chat. And so if you're okay with that, highly recommend it. Another great one, I use their reseller hosting. And I think I'm on RS2, which allows me to have 50 different accounts and all this stuff as well. But, you know, starting out, shared hosting is all you really need. Great software. But again, there's no chat function on here except for sales, and there's no one to call. So that's something I tell people, you know, be cautious. I like this and it works for me, but if you're just starting out, you don't have experience, Liquid Web is who I would tell you to go with. And the great thing is if you do these managed WordPress plans, you don't even need to install it. They'll get it all installed for you anyway. And so what I will talk about is your control panels might look a little bit different compared to what mine are. But the great thing is if you use these managed WordPress plans, they just install WordPress. So guess what? You don't even need to install WordPress. They will do it for you. And what will happen is the first time you come to your website, it's going to look like something like this, which is a stock bog standard theme. And to get into your website and log in, and they'll give you the login details, is this idea of going to WP-admin. And WP-admin will then take you to your login, or like me, I'm already logged in. It will take you to the dashboard. And when you come into this is a brand new install. I wanted to show it to you as well. I want to give you kind of a quick walkthrough. Again, yours might look a little bit different. Along the left here will be your main menu items that you're using. Most of the time you'll be using posts, media, and pages. sometimes comments, sometimes plugins, and these other ones as well. So let's do a quick walkthrough. So the main thing you need to know is you have posts and you have pages. And I always tell people the difference between the two is a page is a static piece of content. It might be the About Us page that doesn't change very often. It might be a home page or a landing page that, you know, you can direct people to. It might be your disclaimer page. It might be your contact page. Posts, on the other hand, look very similar to pages, but from a blog perspective, they go into a chronological order on your website. So if I come and visit the site here, right, what will happen is a post will show up here and you can see the first one right here. So this is just kind of standard content that they have on the website. So if you want to do kind of put your thoughts out, you're most likely going to be using posts, but you'll see things like pages are good for landing pages or opt-in pages or things that are like that. You can turn on, depending on what theme you use, comments, on whether you want to allow people to comment or not. And media is where you will kind of keep all of your pictures and things that you want to use on the website. So one of the first things that I always do when I come into here is I delete the standard kind of base one, and I take a look at categories here and I create a new category. You can start with uncategorized, but I like to start out with news. And same thing, tags. No one really uses tags anymore, so you don't need to worry about it. It's kind of helps from a search perspective, but most people don't use it. Pages, same thing. They have kind of a privacy policy. You can keep that, but I just tend to trash the sample page. No comments right now. Appearance we'll go into here in a few seconds, and let's go into plugins, because the first thing I always do is this Hello Dolly is the first plugin, and I always delete that. I don't use Akismet anymore, so I keep it unactivated, but we'll get into plugins here in a little bit as well. Same thing with users. If you want a family member or a friend, you can go ahead and add in a new user, and you can add in different roles. So like I'm an admin, obviously on mine, but you could also add in editors if you outsource any of this stuff. Tools, you're not going to really use too much right now, but settings, I always like to come in here and make changes. This is your site title, your tagline, your addresses, new user default rows, date format, right? If you want to change your dates around, time zone. So I'm in Chicago, we'll say. So you can change that in time, and the week starts on Monday. We save that. Same thing, we come into writing. News is what I start out with. Save changes. Reading, don't really use it. You can discourage search engine while you're building it until you're ready. Same thing with discussion. I don't really change any of this. Permalinks, I sometimes will. Permalinks, I will do these as post name. So in other words, you're going to get these dates and everything in here, and from an SEO perspective, it's just easier to have your post names, and we'll save that. And so from there, you're ready to go, right? You can start doing a post, add a new post, and this will kind of walk you through, but very simple. Here is my first post, right? And you can choose different blocks if you want, such as paragraph, image, headers, quotes, lists, galleries, and there's more depending on the theme that you're using. And then what you can do is you can schedule this if you want to. I could schedule this for tomorrow, right? Or I can just say now. And you can change the URL a little bit. It will do it on its own. You can do it into categories or tags or a featured image. All this allows, but if you hit publish it immediately, Here's my first post. And just like that, you have your post. And so, again, quite easy. Let's take a look at appearances. And so appearances, you'll see this thing called themes. And your standard theme is this one right here. There are two themes that I recommend that I think work really, really well. One is a freemium theme, meaning it starts out free and then they have a premium. And then another one just gives you a lot more flexibility. It's what I use, called the Divi theme by Elegant Themes. And what I like about it is they have a lifetime deal. I think it's $240. I'll leave a link below to it. And you'll get a lifetime for a premium theme. I've been using that for 10 years now and watched it kind of grow. But what you can do is you can add new here. I always look for, I think, the Astra. Right. You can install Astra. You can activate Astra. And if we look at this now, it's a slightly different format. It's a nice clean format. So that's something to think about as well. Same thing, plugins. There's a lot of different plugins that you can use. So if I want to add a new plugin, there's a few things that I like. I don't like Jetpack. Someone will recommend that, but there is caching plugins that will help you make your site a little bit faster. Because my hosting uses Lightspeed, I tend to use Lightspeed Cache. WP Super Cache is good. Fastest Cache, the best one out there, is called WP Rocket. I'll leave a link to that below, but that is a paid one. I think it's $39 a year. But for right now, we'll just install that one. Right, we'll activate it. And you can see just kind of how easy this is to be able to install things and increase the functionality. Now, what I would say is be cautious about going crazy and trying to install all kinds of different plugins. It will over time slow it down, especially if you're using less expensive. And WP Engine won't allow certain plugins onto their website hosting. So it's why I like Liquid Web a little bit better. So we've looked at appearance, we've looked at that. So let's talk about branding now. Now, branding means a lot of different things, and it includes things like your logos, your color schemes, your font choices, and you as a starter, kind of have three options when it comes to doing your branding. And if you're on a tight budget, the best one is just do it DIY, and you can come over to Canva here. Canva, and you can build your own logo here with some of the free tools that they have. Now, one of the issues you got to look at, it's really hard to, you can't trademark some of these images, at least not on the free platform. But if you're just starting out and you want to figure out your colors and everything, that's one of the ways you can do it as well. Second option is using a platform, and I'll leave a link to this one as well, Fiverr.com. Right? Fiverr is another great way where you can find a whole branding service. You can start with logo design and branding. Some as low as $50 up to $120, and I'll try and leave some links to ones I found on here, and we can talk about that if you want. Leave a comment if you want me to talk a little bit more about that. The other option then is to use a graphic designer, and most of us don't have a graphic designer. And they can be quite expensive. But I do have a package that a colleague of mine, she is a professional graphic designer. She has done graphic design work for several Fortune 100 companies, and she continues to do that right now. But she's built together like a $1,500 branding package that will include like a logo, your color schemes, choosing Google fonts for you that fit your wants and needs, as well as some kind of social media things like your YouTube header. Now, for those of you who don't need it, don't even worry about it. You can kind of skip past this. But For me, at the very least, if you're just starting out, you're going to at least need some color combinations. And so one of the things I like to do here is take a look at different color combinations, right? And so if you come to this page, I'll leave a link to this one below as well. You can see there's a bunch of different color combinations that you can use to build out your brand palette. You know, if you tend to be female and feminine, you like these refreshing, pretty great, you want something more brooding and playful, greens and blues. And this is just, to me, just kind of a great way of looking at, and it gives you these hex codes, which are all the colors that you want to need, so that if you want to come in and create if you want to do something like this. Now, mind you, I'm a premium user, but you can do things like red. This has a watermark on it, and you can build your logo out of this just using text, right? And you can kind of probably see on my website how it looks very kind of similar. So right here, something as simple as that, you could have your very own logo. And you can use this as well to create things like YouTube banner. And they have different templates that you can use. You could use it for Twitter. So there's a lot of things in here that you could do it yourself. Or if you just don't have the time, then obviously hiring a graphic designer is the way to go as well. So let's talk about email right now. And many people just starting out, they're just going to use Gmail, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There may be over time, like some of the email marketing platforms we'll talk about, don't allow you to use a free email account. So you need to look at that. You can also use sometimes your website hosting will have email that comes with it. It doesn't work that great. But ultimately, what I tell most people to do is to use Google Workspace. And so Google Workspace, for a single user, it's $6 a month, and I'll have a link to that as well. And I might have a coupon, so check below on that link. I might have a coupon for that. And what's great is then you get this, Chris@retirementhunt.com. It's managed by Google Workspace, which is what many, a lot of companies use it. I've used it for many, many years for some of my customers. You can also use Office 365. But Google Workspace is great. And what's also great about this is, in addition to this, you can have what are called aliases, meaning instead of Chris at, it could be info at or hello at as an alias. And then what that will allow you to do is any email that comes into info at will come into your main email address. And you can also add on, let's say you get another brand, or you want to do a course, or you want to have a completely different domain name. You can have multiple domain names that will all go into the same account as well. So again, if you want me to show you how to set up Google Workspaces, go ahead and leave a comment below. I can do another video on that. I've set this up for other people as well. And so one of the last things I want to talk to you about, one of the last two things, is I want to talk about email marketing. If you are building a brand, and if you are building a business, and if you're building a presence online, email marketing is one of the most effective ways to talk to your customers. Twitter and YouTube, you have to worry about kind of their algorithm showing you to a lot of people. Same thing. A lot of people got really big on Instagram, and then the algorithm changed where you're only seeing 6% of it. And so if you get someone's email address, then what you can do is, you can get them onto your email list, and then you just email them directly. And there's a lot of different platforms that are available out there. The one that I like to recommend to people is called ConvertKit. And what's great is, well, the great thing is starting out up to 1,000 subscribers, it's free, right? And you're not going to have as much functionality, but starting out, this works just great. And then once you feel like you're needing it more, you can go ahead and move up into the various different things like Creator and Creator Pro. But this is another great one. They have other ones as well. I don't like some of them as much. If you're doing e-commerce, Klaviyo is great. I use a few other ones as well, but ConvertKit, I'll leave a link below to that. You can get signed up for that as well. And that allows you to kind of collect people's email addresses, and you can then as well use them. You can deliver an ebook through it without having to do that as well. And then finally, the last thing you want to do is kind of get set up with Google Analytics to track everything. It's not part of this video today. And ultimately start writing. Right? Start building your website, making it change. I'll do another video that will show how I go about designing my website. I'll have that in another video. But in the meantime, I will have a link to my ebook called Lifetime Agency. And this is an ebook where I explain how I created a side business using only or mainly lifetime deals, and it's absolutely free. Again, just like we talked about with email marketing, just go to retirementhunt.com to sign up, and it will be emailed directly to you in PDF. And I hope this helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now.